I hereby want to discuss how my decision of getting rid of tags, getting rid of titles, also thumbnails for video production, and in this case mostly distribution, has, or what effects this has had as of now. Now, first of all, I want to discuss the initial decision, then I want to discuss the effects, and then I want to take a potential look into the future. So first of all, the decision was mostly the result out of a couple of different optimizations that kind of seem to align on this decision. So the idea was, what if instead of focusing basically my time, or part of my time of distribution in searching for the right thumbnail, after a video, for example, making a couple of thumbnails, I instead would try to focus on the product itself, which would be the video. So one could think of the product itself mostly as the content of the video, whereas the rest around it would basically be the packaging of the video. So of course it is nice to get a video nicely packaged, but maybe it is more useful if actually the content is of higher quality. Now at a given time distribution, so if I have a certain amount of hours I spend on making videos for the internet, then, or making content, let's just say, because making videos for the internet always sounds so ridiculous. So let's just say I make content, and even though this might have a slight negative association, at least in my mind, let's just say I make content. Okay. Then I distinguish mostly between three different phases. The first one is the ideation, the second one is the creation, the third one the distribution. Now, the distribution, I think, takes up most of the time, also due to the construction of this system, in which I record mostly sometimes from notes, but usually I only write down a couple of bullet points at max, and so that's what I usually read from. So sometimes I do also have, maybe I do pull up websites in between, but in this format I try to basically not implement other visual media apart from basically me speaking. Now in other formats I sometimes talk over a screenshot, so this would be then a voice recording. I sometimes record blog posts I write, so this would be different kinds of formats, but all of them have the similarity that I try to start a video, then go through the video and stop the video, then don't edit the video and upload the video. Now this has already allowed me to record, I think, many more videos compared to what I otherwise would have. Now also, because I usually record what I am kind of thinking on a current topic, and kind of usually after the fact, so this is usually kind of a retrospective analysis of something, then I kind of outsource the ideation to otherwise living my life, one could say. So I go through my life and I basically just document things I did already. So this is kind of the idea initially, or was the idea initially. And if it is this thing I want to document is a kind of a thought, elongated thought, then this could also be part of something like this, or it could be something like this, a video that documents a certain part of my thinking, for example. Now in terms of the creation then, this is actually fairly straightforward. It is one-to-one time. So the time I spend in creation is video output length, and if I don't stop in between, then this is actually true. If I then stop in between because I have to blow my nose, or I have to look something up, or I have to stop again due to something else, then this is obviously taking away from this time. So the time I spend in creation then would not be identical to the video output length summed up over all of the videos I created in this time frame. Now the third part, and the distribution, usually would take lots and lots of time. Now one idea is also, so the idea was, how could I, at basically these other two given things, with ideation being as it is, with creation being as it is, how could I, at the same given overall time, make more videos by basically decreasing the amount of time I spend in distribution? How could I decrease the amount of time I spend in distribution by, instead of having a thumbnail, maybe getting the auto thumbnail from YouTube, by, instead of posting to multiple platforms, I just post to YouTube, in order to then also be able to organize my video catalog. So let's say I want to delete 10% of my videos, then let's just say of a certain channel, and this certain channel has already 100 videos up. Now if I want to delete these 10 videos on one platform, then I have to delete the files, and because I have it like this set up, I only have one video file, which has been part of a previous simplification optimization, one could say. So I only have one video file, and I don't have different versions of this video file with one version having maybe 2 seconds intro, with the other version I don't have intros. I basically start the video and I record the video, then it's a video file and I can upload this video file. In the past I used to record these videos on my phone locally. Now I record them by streaming it to OBS Studio, and then I have it basically on my hard drive already. Another simplification to get rid of the transfer process, which often, at least in this day and age and with my given hardware, seem to be the cause of problems, and also then seems to have eaten up time, if this is the right form of this sentence. Now, decreasing the amount of time spent per unit of media spent in distribution would therefore allow me to decrease the amount of time I spend in distribution, and because I not magically can generate more time, so as I go through time, I have a day, and so basically in the future there are all these things that are already basically these time splits or time divisions, which could be an hour, it could be a day, which could be a week, and as long as I remain in a somewhat healthy state, then I can still use them until I'm, well, dead. Now, as I basically go through time, certain of these time intervals repeat again, and so I can record again, and I again have basically kind of the same time available, because a certain amount of time I need to sleep, and so on. So it doesn't, this idea that I could just work magically 20% more or something like this is only true if I can actually increase the quality of my work. But the quantity of my work will kind of, for the rest of my life, at least within a given time interval, stay the same. So by altering these proportions of how much, by altering basically the time distribution, I can alter the potential output. And so therefore every simplification in this process of creation, of ideation, creation and distribution, basically leads to a higher video output at a certain video quality. And because the video quality is constrained to the current version of me and not so much constrained by other things, because I keep other variables somewhat constant, so the microphone is kind of constant, of course I have noise of my notebook, because, well, I didn't find another solution. I have the water cooling of my mattress cooler kind of plugged in here, but if I turn it on, this would additionally lead to another noise, the noise of my mattress cooler. So what I'm trying to say here is, because this is fairly constrained, because the format is identical, the only increase in quality over time can occur by me developing myself, which was also partially intended as kind of, or a partial reason for this construction of a system like this, that I would be the reason these videos are terrible. So if I want these videos to be better, I have to make more, so therefore getting in more practice, but I also have to be maybe more interesting, and maybe have in the rest of my life go through actually interesting things about which I then can make videos. So now let's again talk about distribution. So in the past I tried at least a couple of times to take thumbnails. Then the question came up, what kind of thumbnails do I do? Because I record these videos vertically. I have kind of not submitted, but I have, well, I asked myself multiple times whether I should record in landscape or in portrait, and there is also the distinction of shorts and long. So I actually came to the conclusion that it for now makes the most sense to record in the same format, and then the video would be as long as I think it needs to be. So using basically a simpler algorithm, the algorithm that is how long should I basically say something. So this could, in terms of a conversation, this could be that I say something, and of course I don't explain for 20 minutes all of my different things I think about this, but instead of this I just might say a sentence. And if this sentence is enough sometimes, then this could be already a video, which then would be a short. And sometimes it's longer, like this here. I explain actually maybe for 10 minutes, in this case close to 10 minutes, maybe it would result in a 15-minute video. The reasoning behind this decision to try to reduce the metadata of the video in distribution down to the ID, which is usually 14 letters, and not 14 letters but 14 digits, and it's usually just a timestamp. I asked myself, what is the one unique thing that can be basically attributed to a file that is maybe already maybe has some implementation, and it's the timestamp of the video. So at any given point in time I can only do one thing, because I'm only like one person. So I cannot make a music piece and then something else, a picture for example, at the same time as recording a video. Now there could be an issue if I, for example, start a video and take a picture, a screenshot for example, at the same time. Then I would have two files, so I, as the human, would have two files created that would have the same file ID, at least the same second because if I do things in the same second, then this is a problem. And I have had workflows where I created multiple files in not a single second, where this then was a problem, and I don't really have a solution for this as of now. But in terms of video creation, since usually most videos are longer than 1 second, this is not the problem that concerns me the most, because usually I have an ID that is unique. And so this unique ID also serves as a title for music pieces, and this is actually partially where it stems from. Because if I just record a riff on a guitar, for example, then I don't have a name for it. And if I make up a name for it and then I want to use this name later on for another version of this, then what about this version of this? And so this problem there is no good solution to this problem apart from basically having this algorithm, or the need for this algorithm that runs usually on me, that determines basically a title for all of these different things that I create. And so by getting rid of the title, I'm getting rid of the necessity for this function and also the time I would spend on trying to optimize this. So if I then come up with 15 good song titles, for example, then I ideally would distribute these song titles to the best songs I wrote. But sometimes I think this song is the best, and then I make a new song, even though I don't really make songs, I just make like to call it songs or tracks would be an overstatement, I think, in terms of the music I make. So now a couple of the effects. I do have a video on one channel, for example, where I still was titling. I also decided to not get rid of all of the titles as of now. I did get rid of the links in videos, but only I decided to no longer try to implement new strategies in all of the old videos, because if I keep on doing this, then as long as I keep changing the strategy, which will probably be something that will occur, I need to then always, I basically have this cost of implementing the strategy to historic data, to historic basically uploaded media, which is a very big cost. So if I have multiple channels, let's just say, then I change the strategy for what a channel page on YouTube should look like, and then every decision I make, I have to apply to all of this, and this adds this giant cost to every decision I would try to make. And so I basically stop iterating. I stop trying to improve, because every decision would mean that I would have to implement this. So I decided to no longer implement changes like this, only if I see it and then, okay, yeah, let's just do it like this. I'm already logged into the channel and I just do it like this, but not like I make a list with all of the different things I have to implement on all of the different channels, and then I would go through them, and this was just a cost that is too much and would also prevent me from basically improving on making more videos, or improving with making more videos. Now there is a really big elephant in the room, and this elephant has a broom. Now this was just a short joke, but nonetheless, the elephant in the room is that how do people then find my videos? And the answer is mostly they don't. So this is obviously the biggest problem, because I try to turn this eventually at least into a business, because I want this part of my life to be something that actually also makes money, because otherwise I constantly have to excuse spending so much time on it. And I do also think that this in the long term could be something that actually is maybe scalable, or is maybe by definition, not by definition, but by assumption at least, that would be somewhat scalable. So I try to make videos that potentially help at least future me. That's kind of the idea. The video proxy I use is future me. But since I am targeting this towards future me, I am assuming there is a certain overlap with other people with future me, and so these people might be interested basically in at least some of these ideas. And because I then take the approach of distributing these ideas to different channels, which then usually have like one overarching interest. Now of course one could subdivide, but the question is how many channels are you able to create? Is it 3,500 or maybe 3? And so having 3 would also maybe be easier in terms of the distribution cost per unit of media. So the big downside to this is that, well, I don't get really much traffic. And I do know to a certain degree that I would get a little bit of traffic at least, so I began posting videos to TikTok in the beginning, and I would tag these videos. And so I would get sometimes a couple of hundred views, sometimes it would be maybe 20 views, maybe 50 views per video. And sometimes it would be more than a couple of hundred views. Sometimes it would be close to 1,000 views per video, per short video that was in a style like this. So now, because I already have proof of concept for this type of video, somebody at least on TikTok was interested. of course, now the question is there an audience on YouTube for this? Are shorts on YouTube different? And so on and so forth. But in theory, at least, I have proof of concept for these type of videos. And so the idea now that also in the future somebody would be interested in this is not something that I made up, basically, but it's an assumption that is based on the extrapolation of historic data in this case. And so, because I already stripped down these videos to, okay, it's only me, it's only talking, at least in terms of this format, I already know that somebody is at least to a certain degree interested in something like this. Of course, now, if I change the video topic, yeah, well, maybe, but I don't have to add music or something like this. And so, here is a new way to think about this. Not necessarily a new way, but now kind of a different perspective. If I want to test whether a format is actually something that's useful to an audience. Now, of course, I'm targeting this towards future me, but nonetheless, I am obviously to a certain extent hoping that this also has an audience. That is not only me, because only me is not very monetizable. Now, the idea is, in terms of the business strategy, to have basically these videos online and to use YouTube AdSense in order to finance basically the production and, well, the further production of these videos. And so there are a couple of variables I now can take into account, and one variable I took into account, and this is also part of why I implemented the strategy, was what if, so there are a couple of assumptions that now are baked into this. So the first assumption is now going back to kind of the ID thing and the not having a title. So what is kind of the most minimal form of something? So I could take a short and I could assume that what is working currently on the platform will also work in the future. But what if it doesn't? What if TikTok, for example, does not have a deal with Universal Music anymore, and the usual music I use for my videos then is just disabled, and so the audio on the video is disabled. And then if I would switch eventually the platform, then I would have the problem that YouTube might not have a contract with Universal. So what if I get rid of the music? Then I get rid of this decision variable. The same would be true for titling. And there is also this, there are many different aspects connected to this, I think. One of these aspects would be that if I tag a video, then I would have an incentive that I tag a video such that it would actually get more traffic. Because this would be the optimization. If I only make money by having AdSense on there, then I would optimize also maybe for AdSense. I would optimize maybe also for only speaking words that are basically positively impacting the likelihood of this having a normal AdSense revenue and not having AdSense blocked in some way. And all of these incentives would either subconsciously or also consciously basically influence what I am actually saying. And so, to a certain degree, also one could say, okay, if I hit a sponsor, for example, let's just say for a given video. So I often talk about, so on one channel, for example, I talk about my nutrition. And so if I mention a company, then I would have the suspicion, at least if I am watching this, if this person mentions the company, and maybe there is no disclosure, and also in many countries now there are laws regulating exactly this, because this problem does exist. What if somebody I meet on the streets does tell me about this very cool newspaper he's reading? Can I trust him? And so this question of trust, I think, to a certain degree, eventually decides whether you continue, at least in my case, if I assume, again, myself as an audience proxy, this question of trust and how much I trust a given person and how much non-trust I allow and continue to watch this person determines to a certain degree, I think, at least in my case, how long I continue to watch a certain person. Now, there might also be other arguments such as, okay, I know that I cannot trust this person, but I nonetheless am interested in what they are doing, and sometimes I might have even malevolent motives, such as I know that eventually this will come up, and so I am looking this person up and again in order to see whether they already in this regard have crashed, so to speak, and whether this is then maybe also a problem. So I am trying to basically get data on this also, in part maybe because I want to do maybe something similar, content creation, and so I'm trying to see what the limits of something like this would be. And so I also decided to I want to make content that is as neutral as possible, ideally. And so as I try to approach this again with this lens of neutralism, I ask myself whether it would be useful to future me, for example, to not So future me now is not a very good proxy, because there are obviously problems with future me. But nonetheless, if I basically title things, if I tag things, if I try to optimize basically otherwise the distribution of the content, basically think about packaging, or maybe an example would be packaging. If I say something is like chocolate, but then the person expects chocolate, and then it's actually just a neutral video, that's me talking for 20 minutes about an idea, with just me being here with a black background, and that's then maybe not chocolate, so then the expectation might not be met. And so by not titling the video, I'm also already showing the real thing. YouTube already shows the preview. It just chooses a random moment with my hands up sometimes, and sometimes with my mouth open. I'm basically using the real thing as ad. And so I don't have an ad. The ad is the real thing. There is no difference between the expectation and the thing. At least I am trying to approximate basically how close the expectation then meets what's actually in the video. Because I don't try to say, okay, this video is also like a video about Mr. Beast or something like this, and then people who type in Mr. Beast would also be linked or directed to this video. At least if YouTube decides that, okay, there is this link, and we are trying to find out whether this person is only trying to manipulate our system, or this person is actually true and actually talking about Mr. Beast. So often, for example, before Mr. Beast did any reasonable interviews, there were people talking about Mr. Beast, and they put Mr. Beast in the thumbnail, and sometimes it looked like this was a podcast, and then you clicked on the video, for example, and then you saw that it's not a podcast, and then your expectations are not met. So by also trying, basically, by getting these decision variables down, so this would be one step again in order to simplify distribution for me, but by also showing the real thing already, at least as close as I can. So basically, if a video of mine previous, this could be a short, then this is how the video will continue. There is no big intro, there is no big outro. I just start the video, I say the thing, and then I eventually stop the video. And so basically the whole video is the real thing. The ad for the real thing, the first 3 seconds, for example, you would see, are basically already the real thing in the same style. So if one then decides, okay, I want to listen to this, then one does not, maybe, okay, at the end I say something and that's disappointing, or I don't know, or you had higher expectations of me. But since I am basically making these videos close to also these thoughts I have, and also close in time, I actually kind of hope that this would lead to a more neutral video, which is what I'm trying to make. And so reducing the decision variables also gets rid of the decision responsibility, or the optimization responsibility for these variables. And so it is also allowing me to make these videos in a more simpler fashion. In a simpler fashion, I can just, for example, I actually for the last couple of days didn't really make videos because, well, I thought, who am I to say anything on anything? Because, well, maybe I should have, I don't know, this and this and this expertise in this area in order to even talk about something like this. But then, for example, as of today, I looked up a certain product, and for this product there were no reviews. And so I just, as of today, because everything is so simplified, because the camera is already here and the microphone is already here, I made 2 videos on this thing. Now the question again came up, do I now title this? But if I go into the title game, then I am kind of eventually played by other external factors which I cannot really control. The same would be true for comments, for example, which I now have disabled on all channels, because, well, I probably am not able to handle. So if this actually scales well, in at least in the mid and long term, then I probably would not be able to handle this. I already have trouble basically handling all the different chats, at least in the past, so I decided to just delete WhatsApp. It's of course not as easy as just deleting WhatsApp, and I just maybe wanted to make it seem easy, but I probably, within a certain amount of time, have only a certain amount of processing power, and if I don't want this processing power to go anywhere else, I just disable, or try to disable, basically other factors that would take away parts of my processing power, such as thinking about this one comment and then this other comment. Do I have the free time and the free space to think about whether this comment is useful and this comment is justified, and also validate the source and think about, okay, is this guy maybe, who is this guy who is telling me this? Am I more right in this, or is he more right in this? I don't know. So the decision is basically taking away potential traffic as of now. And what I'm hoping is that I am thereby allowing myself to create more videos, so I am increasing at these other given constraints. So if these other things are constraints, then they are given, I am able to, at least in theory, have more time for producing videos, which means I can make more videos, which means my skill progression of making videos, but also ideally my personal development would be basically on a steeper incline, or on a I don't know, higher slope, if this is the right word, or let's just say on a more incline, or on a bigger incline, or the rate of change would be higher. Let's just say it like this. And so this is what I'm kind of still betting on. Of course, this is a very long-term strategy, which then also might mean that I will not have benefits of something like this. In the past, for example, for certain reviews of products, I did try to find affiliate links. I did sign up with Amazon Partner, with the partnership program on Amazon. But then this again became a game of, okay, do I insert this link, do I insert this link, but if I do insert this link, then I also need a disclaimer, and so on and so forth. And if I just remove all of this, then maybe I spend less time on the distribution, on the metadata, and more time producing videos. So instead of spending 10-20 minutes of signing up for this partner program and then this partner program, because this product is not on Amazon, and so by getting rid of this, I can maybe make 2 or 3 more videos if I assume a video has maybe 5 minutes. And if all of the videos are in a somewhat reasonable state of mind, of course sometimes I am in a better state of mind, so the video quality might be better, and sometimes I just stumble and mumble in front of the camera. But nonetheless, I think still this is somewhat of a useful decision, and so I think we'll still stick to this, even though now... And so now a practical example again would be the product review of this nutrition part, or this nutritional product I have tried out in the last couple of months, whether I should title this or not. And of course there is like an incentive. Now I could just title this, and maybe it would get similarly to this video, which I already have online, which I had still titled. So in the beginning of making longer videos on YouTube, I did thumbnail and I also did title. But well, I decided to no longer do this, and so I'm possibly foregoing basically the traffic that otherwise would be found. Now, in terms of this, there is now another argument which I also already have kind of also evidence for, which is that YouTube apparently already writes transcripts for the videos. And so if YouTube already has transcripts for the videos, wouldn't it be the most useful if, instead of having an actor that is possibly interested in manipulating the system, and basically being the exploiter of the system, so if there are 10 people that only try to have very neutral thumbnails and very neutral titles, and then there is one that writes titles like "just watch this" and something like this, then this one actor would basically manipulate the system in a way, so it would basically dilute the overall system, not dilute, but pollute. It would dilute the neutrality and the utility of overall the system, and would therefore also pollute it, one could say, by taking what the others don't do and do it by basically exploiting the system. And because everybody then is exploiting the system, similarly to how if one baker starts to put 1 gram of sugar more into his croissants, and then the next one does the same, and then the other one starts to put 1 gram of more fat in it, and then you end up in a society where many people are overweight, potentially, because there are so many things that have been one-upped and one-upped and one-upped and one-upped. And the same could be maybe said for certain portions of YouTube at least. And so I try to avoid this incentive structure, also manipulating the neutrality of my videos by trying to avoid also this game, which I already saw on me, and I already saw how this influenced me, and I already saw how I would exaggerate my talking style and so on and so forth, at least on TikTok, in order to maybe appeal to an audience, to a certain demographic, because maybe, well, I try to appeal to my demographic, to future me, and future me does not like if I talk very I try to talk in the way I usually am trying to talk, because otherwise, so it is again just reducing decision variables. I try to talk in a neutral way, as I would otherwise also do, and so I don't then have additional decision variables such as wearing a hat, such as talking, I don't know, ridiculously in order to gain attention in the beginning of the video. And so here is now another thing. I already began with this, but if I make a video then if I say something and I don't mumble that much, then YouTube already has, now with language transcription, basically all of the data it needs in order to properly advertise this video. The video itself writes itself. Every time I make a video, I am also writing the video, at least assuming that now or in the future there will be a transcription service which is already kind of available on YouTube, even though it often makes mistakes still. But having the keywords, I basically already have the keywords in there, and I now don't have to be in this game in which I possibly gain from manipulating the system, similar to maybe other actors, by having keywords in there which are not exactly in the video, but by using keywords that are maybe trendy, for example. And so if the video itself is language, and then YouTube already can transcribe something like this, and YouTube already does this, and sometimes does automatic chapters, and sometimes links a video where you cannot really see if the thing is in the video, but you Google for something and then it's like, okay, go to this portion in the video. So YouTube already does this. YouTube also plays out sometimes my videos to a certain audience. It's just that YouTube, for many channels, because they are also fairly new, doesn't really know what this channel actually stands for, which would be another thing of formatting. So I actually split up many channels, or some channels which I had before, different formats on, in order to basically allow any channel to just be a playlist, similarly to short and long content, which then would be very similar in terms of the style. So if one watches a 1-minute video of me or a 30-second video of one channel of myself, then if I speak for 2 minutes, then that's the exact same thing. The only difference is the length. And so this has been a short analysis of how this has impacted basically my traffic. Basically, it, I assume, is a very big reduction in traffic because I don't benefit from the keywords and the titles or the SEO optimization I otherwise would have on these. But it also already sped up quite a bit my distribution process, which is basically just me uploading files to YouTube. And this also now allowed me to search these files on YouTube, and also so I can search for the file ID in Windows Explorer as well as on YouTube. Before, I sometimes changed the title, and also YouTube doesn't search through the description. I previously had the ID in the description, but if I search for the ID on YouTube, I couldn't find it. So I would have to go from page to page to page, but the overall search in a channel in YouTube Studio did not work, but now it does, which is, in terms of catalog management, making it simpler.